Morning Asean. Freshen up your world, your thought, and your idea with us every weekday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. with me, Patsurang Desha Putharangsi.
And also me, Nirasha Malisaklami and Kun Patsurang. Before we go into updates our ASEAN news today, we're going to have a look at our record interview by our anchors and reporter Kun Jarawit Kitisin, who had held an interview with Mr. Manu Bashkaran, the CEO of Asia Continual Advisors in Policy and Strategic from Singapore. Both of them were discussing about the economic situation and the economic threats in Cyprus to achieve its bailout package. Let's have a look.
Regarding the tomorrow, we are expected that Cyprus is going to either adopt or not the conditions for IMF to give them the bailout loans. Now, one of the fears is that if they choose to go that way, there might be fears of bank run across the Eurozone. What do you think about this?
I have a feeling that the Cyprus government is going to try and renegotiate and get a somewhat better compromise out of the creditors, because clearly the political reaction has been so strong that they will be forced to ease some of the conditions. So we'll have to see how they change the conditions. If they continue along the current route, which comes across to the public in Cyprus and elsewhere in Europe as very unfair, whether you agree or not, it's very unfair, then the political backlash could actually be very strong in Cyprus and you could get political instability.
If we're going, if we go on to the hypothesis that they choose to go through the conditions, if they won't, and if Cyprus choose an exit outside the Eurozone, does this show the weakness regarding the euro currency?
I think it would be very difficult for Cyprus to exit the Eurozone. There is no legal mechanism by which a country can actually exit. It would be very, very messy, and the damage done to the economy could actually be even greater than if they stayed. So I suspect that they will not exit, but I suspect there will be a lot of financial market instability because of the greater uncertainty about how to deal with this issue.
But Cyprus is only a small economic country. How would their exit weaken the euro currency?
Even though they are small, there's a precedent being set in the way this bailout is structured. The precedent could unnerve savers and depositors across the Eurozone. If it is possible for one country in the Eurozone to impose a tax on depositors, people in Spain, in Portugal, in Ireland or whatever might say, oh my God, if there's another bailout in their countries, the same thing could happen to them, and they could rush to their banks and withdraw the money and shift the money to some other bank outside the Eurozone. So the fear is that there will be bank runs in other parts of Europe. There will be a loss of trust, a loss of confidence in governments, in banks across the Eurozone if this is not well managed.
Now, in your opinion, how should we deal with this case? Because Cyprus is actually different from Greece when IMF offered the bailout.
Yes.
IMF asked Greece to take money from the bondholders, but in Cyprus, it's the depositors in the banks.
Yes, I think any allocation of loss has to be seen as a political exercise, not just as an economic or financial exercise, and therefore it must be seen to be fair. It's not just a question of whether what is the most efficient way of doing this, it must be seen to be fair. And in this case, if the ordinary saver, deposit holder in Cyprus is being confiscated of his savings, as some people might say, this comes across as being very unfair when the bondholders, who could be much richer people from richer countries in Europe, are not touched at all. It comes across as very unfair. So whatever is done has to be seen as fair. The shareholder must take a cut, the bondholder must take a cut, the depositor must take a cut, and the taxpayer must take a cut.
And even now, do you think the people of Cyprus are actually taking their money out from the bank?
I think there's been a bank holiday, so it's not possible for them to withdraw funds. But the risk is that this can't go on. You can't just keep the banks shut for a long time. At some point they must open, and then they must resolve the issue.
And there might be a domino effect if this problem is not solved, right?
If this is not well managed, the loss of trust, the loss of confidence in the whole Eurozone could become a major threat to the Eurozone economy.
Okay. Now, from your perspective, can you just give us an overview of how do you see this issue unfold in the next 2 or 3 days?
I suspect that there will be a political compromise. Clearly, this is not sustainable. That political compromise may involve some haircut for the bondholders, for instance, or that some other institution like the ECB or the European Bailout Fund comes in and takes part of the losses. That could help make the thing politically acceptable.
Do you think that it's possible for countries like Thailand, which is actually having a lot of populist policies right now and loaning for their budgets, follow the footsteps of what's happening in the Eurozone?
I think we are very far from that in any ASEAN country. The debt to GDP ratio in Thailand still remains about 44% or something like that. Even with the fiscal deficits that are planned, that ratio will not rise beyond 55, 56% as far as I know. So long as the increase in the debt to GDP ratio is contained,
Right.
so long as the investments being made are productive and will yield a good return over time, then I think financial markets will accept it.
Well, Kunir, most of the updates from the largest economy of Southeast Asia, like Indonesia, have much related to a subsidy policy. For example, the SME industry and also other food and energy cooperation, other frameworks have received so many subsidies from the government. But lately, the World Bank just cut its growth forecast for Indonesia to 6.2% this year from its 6.3% last year in December, citing an expected moderation in domestic investment growth. But it also said that investment will continue to be a key source of growth, but it's expected to moderate as indicated by the slower pace of imported capital goods spending. Indonesia's strong domestic demand and resilience to the global economic slowdown has continued to attract foreign investment in recent years, but the country's first annual trade deficit in 2012 has put pressure on the rupiah currency. The World Bank projected that the inflation is expected at 5.5% for Indonesia this year and 5.2% in 2014. The World Bank added that the outlook for CPI inflation is dominated by the risk of upside pressures from policy decisions relating to minimum wages, trade restrictions on foods, as well as the temporary effects of electricity tariff subsidy reform. Indonesia has managed to contain inflation by continuing to subsidize fuel costs, though that has meant heavy government spending on subsidies. Many economists suggested, Kunir Shah, the subsidies must be cut, but President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono is reluctant to take this kind of measure, especially with national elections due next year. And the World Bank estimated a fiscal deficit of 1.9% of Indonesia's GDP in 2013 due to higher projected fuel subsidy spending and potentially weaker revenue collection.
Well, despite that, Kun Pasarang, however, yesterday Airbus signed a 18.4 billion euros deal, or around 24 billion US dollars, with low-cost Indonesia carrier Lion Air for 234 single-aisle passenger planes, poaching one of rival Boeing's fastest-growing customers. Airbus director Fabrice Bregier called the deal with Lion Air, traditionally a client of Boeing, the largest single order ever recorded by Airbus to date, both in terms of value and number of aircraft involved. The contract for the A320 planes trumped that between Lion Air and Boeing in 2011 for 201 planes worth 22 billion US dollars. Lion Air has been rapidly growing its fleet to meet the need for medium-haul jets servicing the growing aviation market in Indonesia, the world's fourth most populous country. The landmark order includes 109 A320neo and 64 A321neo planes, with the neo designating the newest full-saving type of the narrow-body jets, as well as 60 A320 classic planes. And for that, French President François Hollande said that the deal has set a good example of what the French industry is capable of and must strive to achieve. For this, Southeast Asia has emerged as one of the most fertile markets for popular medium-haul jets built by Airbus and Boeing, as rising incomes and a growing middle class boost air traffic. Indonesia's 17,000 islands and relatively robust economy, well insulated from Europe's financial crisis, have made the world's largest archipelago a magnet for aircraft sellers. Its domestic aviation market, serving the world's fourth largest population, is growing at 21% annually, and well below recent recent peak, airplane demand remains robust as airlines and lessors modernize fleets to drive down fuel costs, while emerging market growth continue almost unchecked.
The International Finance Corporation, or IFC, a member of the World Bank, has entered into a partnership with the Laos Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment to improve laws and regulations and their enforcement and to implement integrated water resources management in the country. This project accounted for $2.4 million cooperation in Vientiane, the capital city of the country, will run from now until 2017. Well, this partnership aims to ensure that the hydropower will be developed and operated in sustainable ways that protect the environment and local people's livelihoods. It will also support socioeconomic development in the country, reducing poverty mainly. Laos has the potential to build more than 100 dams on the Mekong River and its tributaries with combined installed power of about 28,000 megawatts. At present, the country has completed, following its own national policy of to be a battery of Asia. So now the completion of the construction of only 17 dams with combined installed power capacity of only 3,000 megawatts. IFC and the World Bank have been helping Laos to revise its water and water resources law by providing consultation, support, and technical input to help them better anticipate, evaluate, and manage the only lucrative resource in Laos.
And Khun Pasarang, when we talk about the ASEAN countries, of course, one of the ASEAN countries that we do not forget is Myanmar, as the country has recently opened, inviting many people to come. And of course, there's a lot of opportunities, whether to be in terms of businesses or maybe in terms of tourism industry.
Right.
And for that, in Myanmar Focus today, the question remains whether this is really the right time for them to go. So find out.
Yes, Myanmar is a very hot investment destination right now. It is an emerging economy with so much potential. However, there are some problems such as the uncertainties in laws, rules and regulations, the lack of infrastructure, or an outdated financial and banking system that actually bars the investors from settling down business activities there. But if they don't do it now, they could lose out so many opportunities. President of KWR International, who has just recently released the guide, Business and Investment Opportunities in the New Myanmar, suggests that the investors should not be scared of the problems, but they should come and explore opportunities as early as possible.
But in some cases, for it to be a really good opportunity a few years out, you still got to start doing your homework and build the relationships now. So what we've been really urging people is to come in, get to know the place, get to know the people, get to understand the opportunities, because data and information is not so accessible here.
He also advises investors should not forget that Myanmar is still a relationship-based society. The society is very traditional and conservative.
A lot of what happens is, you have to be here and make friends and know people so that you can, so that there's trust to move forward, because there are gaps in terms of what's going on. So that's something which we can add and we can bring to clients, is an ability to understand the country, to know who to talk to know who they might choose as a partner, because, having a good local partner is key.
The business deal cannot be done in one day. One key point leading to successful business in Myanmar is that it is important to find and build a healthy and trustworthy business relationship with your local partner in Myanmar. Onravita Misang for Myanmar in Focus Daily.
Industry likely to expand as AEC looms. Coming back after the break.
On Malaysia.